Hello, Facebook. It's Friday, and we are live from the Loudhouse Podcast Network. It's your pal MAGEE, and I have a very, very special guest with me today. The lovely, the talented, the badass Miss Hollywood, Jeanne Basone. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We were supposed to have you on about a week ago, and some things got crisscrossed, but you made good and you're here. So that's all that's important.
Thank you.
Quick bit of history for some that may not know who you are. Okay. You are one of the original gorgeous ladies of wrestling.
Correct.
And it was a promotion in the 80s that I don't know what else to say other than every 12-year-old boy I knew was watching that show religiously every Saturday afternoon.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So that means you must have been 12 years old. Is that correct?
I was roughly about 11 or 12 years old when Glow first started, because it was what, 87?
Right. So it started 86, 87, 88, 89.
Okay.
Right.
So I was between the ages of 10 and 14. So you were an integral part of my coming of age, young lady.
I love it.
And you're still just as beautiful as you were back then.
You're very kind.
You've aged very, very well, better than I have.
No, you look great too. This is all good.
Well, you're still pretty active in the wrestling community these days. I saw that you're working with Billy Corgan's NWA.
Every once in a while, I do a couple of things with them, just here and there. We worked on the documentary that we did in 2012. He was doing voiceovers, and he was also at the CAC. And so I met him there at Cauliflower Alley Club. And then we did voiceovers together, and we've just been acquaintances ever since. Yeah.
Okay. When you say the documentary, you're referring to the one that they did on Netflix, not to be confused with the show. Oh, no, it wasn't a Netflix documentary?
The Glow documentary. There was a Glow documentary, Mike, in 2012. The one we were talking about earlier, where Maggie Fiji and all of us got together.
Absolutely.
So that documentary.
Okay, because I only saw that on Netflix. That's how I saw it. And it was,
great.
It was maybe.
You're right. My bad. You're right. It was. And it's funny because I looked it up when I was over at Daytona Comic-Con. I did not see it on Netflix. I don't know.
Which is kind of funny, being that they created a TV series that lasted about 3 seasons off of that. Now, were you involved in any of the the production or the executive producing, whatever, for the Glow series?
A big NO. It would have been really nice, but they had everything that they needed. They looked at that documentary. They could go to YouTube videos, and they could do all of that for free. So it's kind of a bummer that you wouldn't have a Glow girl come up on the set, especially one that was there for the pilot and all 4 seasons. I could have given them a can we
you are able to say whatever you want. Beth isn't here to yell at us.
Right.
So
yes,
you can drop them
tons and tons of information from the audition process all the way to how it ended. So yeah, it was kind of a shame that they didn't ask anybody, but that's how it works.
I was under the impression that one of the original women from Glow was part of the creation of the Glow series.
So no, that's incorrect. So I will tell you how Netflix got the name. Was one of the girls, the last farmer's daughter, had the trademark. She owns trademark. So they got with her. They leased the trademark from her so that they could use it.
Okay.
Basically, they paid her some good money for 3 seasons, and that's it. So I don't know if she gave them any input at all. No one really talks to her. She doesn't talk to anyone. I think she's afraid that the girls are pissed off at her because they want to know where their money is. But she owns the trademark. It's hers.
Right. And I mean, it's a good and bad thing all at the same time, because even though everybody may not have gotten something out of it, the way that they should have. If nothing else, it brought back some recognition to the brand. Exactly. And I mean, I've noticed like one of my guilty pleasures is the Pluto Network, because there's some crazy stuff on this channel, and one of the channels actually starts showing old Glow footage, like full shows from back in the 80s.
Yeah, you know what I heard? I heard that they're having season 3 and 4 because David McLean has season 1 and 2. So you haven't seen season 1 and 2. You're looking at season 3 and 4, which another executive producer had the rights to those. I don't know how that happened, but he sold his to Pluto, and David's still holding on to season 1 and 2.
Well, and let's dive into the 80s era original ladies of wrestling, because I do too, because there's some really, really interesting stuff, especially for true wrestling geeks like myself. And it's one of those things that a lot of people didn't realize. One, you girls were trained by a legendary Guerrero brother. You had Mondo Guerrero helping train you guys to be able to be, television ready. What was that like?
So we had to be, and he trained us for 2 to 3 months. He trained 12 girls only. So let me make everybody understands that he trained the very first 12 girls who did the pilot. And then afterwards, Mondo was gone. And then the training started trickling down to a few pro wrestlers that David McLean knew in Indiana. And then from there, it trickled down to girls training girls. So my training was Mondo, and he was pretty hardcore, let me tell you.
Yeah, well, I mean, all things considered, like I know that at the time it didn't get the credibility that it deserved. Because I mean, we can be honest, we're all grown-ups here. It was sexy girls rolling around in a ring and having funny storylines. It wasn't necessarily, at the time, WCW was still the NWA. That was the Ric Flair. It was, I mean, even as a kid, I used to tell my mom, oh, WWF is okay, Mom. It's not real. But the NWA, if I watched it, I had to watch it in secret without my mom catching me because it was so violent. It had to be real. So
I love it.
And then, of course, Glow was every boy in the 80s dirty little secret.
Exactly.
But it's going back and watching it now.
Boy or girl.
Well,
boy or girl.
I could only guarantee for the boys' end of it. I can't speak for the girls that enjoyed it as well. I'm sure there were plenty.
Good for them.
It was like going back and looking at it, knowing what kind of budget you guys had available to you, the way that you were doing guerrilla production for a lot of those promos and spots, you guys were amazing for what you accomplished with what you had. And going back on it, it's still just as entertaining as it was when I was a kid.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. I think it was. Now we took those bumps. So, you can't say that we weren't wrestling. We were. It was more of a variety type of show. We took those bumps. We worked our asses off. There would be times on a show day, on a Saturday, that I wouldn't just do one match. I'd do 4 matches, and then afterwards do all the comedy sketches and then the PSAs, because I was a bad guy, a heel, and they had me doing the drinking and driving and the drugs. And so it was a full day. And trust me, you can only do that in your 20s, man. I mean, your brain is like going and remembering. I don't think people could do that in their 40s and 50s. You slow down a little bit. You just do.
Believe me, I have my moments where I forget why I walked into a room these days. So don't. We're not that far apart in age.
No, we're not. We're on the same. We're probably 10 years apart, probably.
Not even. We've only maybe about 5 years.
No, I think you're wrong. If you were 12, there's no way that I was 17 years old.
Well, let's see. I'm born in 76. I'm 45, going to be 46 years old.
Oh my God, I'm not even going to tell you. Anyway, I'm older.
Well, you still look younger, so that's all that matters.
It doesn't matter. That's right.
Now you did have some of your Glow alum end up moving into what we refer to as legitimate companies, in the sense that Miss Tina Ferrari went on to become Ivory, a multi-time WWF Women's Champion, and a genuine, like, badass,
great athlete.
Amazing.
And you know what, Mike? She was so good when I first met her. She was one of the original 12 as well.
Yep.
And she was a star. She already had the package, you know. She really did. You could tell.
Well, and that
she was gonna go.
Well, and that leads me to my next question. Did you ever pursue trying to get into the WWF?
So I had been doing 4 seasons. I got to remember the first 12 girls, we did season 1 and 2, and then the show split, it stopped, and those first 12 and all the rest that were on that first show left. So now I have new girls for season 3 and 4. Now I'm working 4 years in a row with no break in between. So when at the time, WWF came to our city, my agent wanted me to go and audition, but right when they were there, I'd broken my leg. I broke my leg in 3 places, but I went down anyway, and I wore sweatpants to hide the atrophy in this leg, but I was still limping because my leg was stiff. So I get in the ring, and they're asking me questions about Mondo and my training, and they're liking me. And I'm like, oh my God, they like me. And I didn't want to lie. I said, you guys, I'm right in the middle of a broken leg. You know, the record scratches.
Oh.
And that's okay though, because for me, I just wanted to be a 20-year-old. I hadn't had a break for a while. And sometimes at that age, I'm like, I want a steady boyfriend. I want to go party. I want to go see our friends' bands. I want to go do the thing that a 20-year-old needs to be doing right now. So I didn't care. I was like,
and by that point, where we're talking, to give a point of reference for everybody, we're talking roughly around 1997 was when
80.
the WW. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I was talking more about when Ivory came into the WWF to resurge the women's division. That was about 97, 98 when that started to happen.
That is correct.
So you would have been in your mid-20s probably
by then.
Yes, you would have been like in your mid to late 20s.
I broke my leg, Mike, because I broke my leg in December of 98, and my audition with them was the beginning, like February 99. You're right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, and it's a shame because, I mean, you could have held any number of roles in that particular time frame, because whether it had been a valet or as an actual wrestler in the ring, like you're one of the few valets that at the time would have been bump ready pretty much instantaneously.
Yeah, I should have had somebody pushing me, but when I broke that leg, all I could think of in my mind was, I don't want to wrestle anyone. So I was so afraid because I broke it wrestling.
Right.
And in my head, my mentality was, it was so painful that in my head, it's like, I'm never doing this again. And that was also a part of it where I'm like, forget it. You know, I'm trying to weigh out what I wanted, but maybe I should have had someone pushing me. But it is what it is. And I love the way that things have played out afterwards.
Well, you've definitely had a very interesting career after that, including you were on one of my all-time favorite television shows, and I can't believe I missed it. Now I'm going to have to go back and look. But you were on the TV show Chuck. I love that show.
That was a great show to be on. They were looking for stunt women who weren't afraid to shoot guns. And in my family, we grew up with guns. Even though I'm from Southern California, it doesn't matter. Dad taught us safety, hunter safety. And I'd be in the backyard shooting targets and stuff. So basically, I wasn't afraid of guns. And these were semi-automatic guns. I'm like, I can do it. So they hired women for that. But you'll need to go see that. It's called The Seduction, I think, or something.
Oh, you're in the Seduction Impossible episode with John
something. The Seduction of something. I have to look it up. Yeah, we'll look it up and we'll find it.
You don't even worry about it because
Seduction or something. Okay.
Yeah, The Seduction Impossible. If I'm not mistaken, that's the one with John Larroquette in it. And I've watched that series multiple times. It's one of the few that I actually own on DVD. Even my kids who are teenagers have watched that entire series multiple times. They loved Chuck. So,
Right.
I mean, obviously the first one that I can speak of other than being on Glow was Married with Children.
Oh my God, that was so good.
And it's funny because my girlfriend Terry that's what she's been like putting on to go to sleep to lately is old episodes of Married with Children. And it happened to be that it was the episode that you ladies were on was playing. And I just kind of went, that one, that's the one that's going to be on the show, babe.
Yeah, that's season 4, episode 17. What an honor to be on that show, because that was a huge show. So
it was,
I loved it.
Like unless you grew up watching that era of like Fox television, people don't realize how crazy that those shows really were, because by today's standards, it's tame. It's very tame. But like,
and I didn't think it was very tame back then. I was
and it because it wasn't back then. Back then, it was crazy, but it was hysterical. Like I still seeing Al Bundy looking at all you sexy ladies going woohoo, and then he's got to wrestle. What was it, Big Bad Mama?
Yes, and he was so funny, Mike. I thought when we were standing there in the ring, he was so hilarious. I could not believe. I'm trying not to laugh, but his acting ability was insane. I'm like, this man is so freaking funny. Oh my God, he's great.
Oh, it's funny. I almost wore my Al Bundy is my spirit animal T-shirt, but I wore it last week, so I'm not gonna wear it. But how did you transition from doing? I mean, obviously the physicality part wouldn't scare you after you've been thrown around by Mondo Guerrero and Judo Jeanne LaBelle
and Mountain Fiji,
and Mountain Fiji. Now, and she did come from a wrestling family, didn't she? Didn't she have connections to the
Samoans? They were Samoan. I know that she was a shot putter in college, and she was supposed to go to the Olympics, but that's when they got boycotted, so she couldn't go.
Gotcha.
So. Yeah, she came from a huge family. I don't know if anybody was wrestlers. That I'm not quite sure about.
Okay. I would have to do some digging on that. But
me too.
I
wouldn't know that. Yeah. I would think we would all know that. So I don't know, unless it's, generation. It goes from second to third or fourth cousins, and it could.
Right. It is. And when it comes to the great Anoa'i family, there are splinters that are not necessarily Anoa'is, but are related still. So it's a tough family tree to keep up with, even when you're part of the family tree, I'm sure. So what made you decide that stunt work was the next step?
Well, if you can wrestle and land hard in the ring, you can be a stunt woman. But my girlfriend, Cheryl Lightning Russo, that played Lightning on the show, the 3rd and 4th season, was starting to get into that. And she would say, come to the show, come with me. Let's go hustle this set. Let's go check it out. And I remember going on Baywatch and hustling that set. And I wasn't, again, here I am going, falling. And, someone just said, there's lots of money in stunt work. But yes. I did stuff because of her. And I was very specific because I wasn't big. I was big here and smaller here down in the hips. So I was specific for certain actresses.
Right.
And that's a whole family business in itself. You have to, that's a whole nother family type of nepotism going on situation. And Cheryl, oh my God, because she's little, she has worked so many shows for so many kid actors. And she's really good at what she does. Seriously. I mean, I
believe
he has a niche, man. She's in.
Well, and to think, there's not a lot of adults that are 4'9" that can take a bump like that and be able to stunt double for Macaulay Culkin when he's 12. That's crazy. That's a very niche place to be. And
yes, it is. And so she's been very fortunate to be able to do that. But it was Cheryl who got me into that. And then, the TV shows were because Glow was putting us on certain shows. And so we got our union cards, Screen Actors Guild and AFTRA.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Now, what we should have done, and Matt Simber always said, I had a meeting with him last year. He said, you know what? I wish you guys would have done. I wish one of you just would have went into the acting and concentrated on that. I'm thinking, why do you tell I needed someone to always push me at that point in my life, because I'm thinking going out, going to clubs,
right,
partying. Oh, I'm going to sleep in. I don't want to be up at 6 a.m. for a call.
Well, and
things changed as I got older.
And it's, it's one of those things where, you caught the rock and roll bug.
Big time.
It's not uncommon. We've all been there. I'm still there. Like,
me too.
I have not the two things I've never outgrown. Well, three: wrestling, rock and roll, and Star Wars. What can I say? I'm still a big nerd. I can't help it.
And I'm a space nerd. I like space. Anything about space. Oh my gosh. I like that stuff too.
And see, that's the thing for those of us born in that late 60s, early 70s era, where sci-fi was so big that it was all encompassing,
Yep. So I watched Star Trek with my father all the time. Me and Dad would always watch those episodes of Star Trek in the 70s. It was so good.
It's the old stuff. It was amazing and it's a nice crossover because it's amazing what they did with so little. Not uncommon to like what you ladies had to do for stuff to glow. You take, okay, here's a box of gimmicks, go out and make something happen,
and it's true. It's so true, because at the time you're like, my character, I'm like, what does Hollywood do? What do you mean she picks pockets? What the hell does that mean? They're going to have to do more than just pick pockets. Well, so I started changing our hair and giving us rock and roll outfits like the chicks in the videos, crimp the hair, wear the short skirts, wear the corsets, the gloves, the fishnets.
Well, I'll just say that you helped accelerate my maturity, and I'm not saying that in a dirty way. I learned a few things from what you had said. Like I remember one time you had dropped the name Fredericks of Hollywood, because you and your tag team partner Vine were in your little lingerie gimmicks,
right?
And so I never knew what Fredericks of Hollywood was at 11 years old, and then all of a sudden I see a catalog in my friend's mom's house, and I'm like, dear. It's like porn. It's like porn, and I'm like, and then going to find out, I'm like, what? I don't understand. What's the significance of Hollywood and Vine? And then one of my older cousins, tells me, well, that's where all the hookers in Hollywood stand. And I'm like, oh my goodness. But it was funny. One of those things that I remembered. So even as a little kid, I just remembered Hollywood and Vine. Like that was the tag team of the bad
What a
girls.
Great tag team name, isn't it? Isn't it a great?
It truly
to me, it's one of the greatest tag team names ever. It's got to go with. Go ahead. Like the Rock and Roll Express. That's awesome.
It's right there. It's their neck and neck.
Yeah, very, very cool.
And see, that's one of the things that I appreciate is the fact that, whenever I've seen interviews with any of you ladies, your shit. Like, your wrestling history. The fact that you just pulled out the Rock and Roll Express, that's something that helps add to the credibility of the promotion that people don't realize was that you weren't just a bunch of hot chicks rolling around. You learned your craft.
We did a little due diligence. And in the beginning, I didn't know about it, but I started learning that, especially when I was invited to all these conventions, the wrestling conventions. I started meeting all of the guys, and I'm like, I did not believe that they were watching us, and they will all say, yes, we were watching Glow.
Oh, absolutely.
We were in WWF. We were watching you guys. Animal was telling me that at one of the conventions, bless his heart.
May he rest in peace.
Yes, right. God.
It's one of those things that, when you look at, and it's funny because I've gone back, I especially over the last year and a half, being out of work after getting laid off and, being stuck at home for so long, I went deep into the old catalog, thanks to the network, and started watching old, 1980s, classic WWF and NWA stuff.
I love all that classic. I love telling a story in wrestling, you know.
Well, it's interesting because as little time and as little focus as the women's divisions for any of the companies got, like watching the women's wrestling from the 80s, especially like when the Jumping Bomb Angels came over and were going toe to toe with what was it, Leilani Kai's team there, the Glamour Girls. Sorry, I had a brain fart for a second. Very good. Those women were beating the bejesus out of each other. It was, I mean, insane. It was the pinnacle of like 80s Joshi wrestling for women, which was the loud screams before the hits and stuff like that. Right. And so watching this in the Boston Garden was unbelievable. And it's one of those things that like you all you ladies were a decade too early.
Exactly.
You know, like it should have been right on time.
It should have been. And it was, we were, you're exactly right. We were too early. They weren't ready for us. That's it.
I don't think anybody
did lay down a foundation. We did lay down that foundation for the rest of the ladies that were ready and were in the right place at the right time.
Well, and I mean, when you go back and you look at that late 90s, early 2000s era of WWF, which was very racy. It was very mature. It was not focusing on ice cream bars and dolls.
No, it wasn't. It was. They wanted their girls a certain way and a certain look.
And you know what? It almost seems like it came right out of the Glow handbook. Put them into really hot, skimpy clothes.
Correct.
And have it not. It doesn't have to be Flair Steamboat. It just needs to be two hot chicks rolling around, but still looking like they're actually hurting each other. And that was the pinnacle of Glow was that.
There you go.
It's a shame. Like in terms of what you're doing in wrestling now, what is your? I know you said you do stuff with the NWA occasionally. What's your role in that? Like, are you? Because
my only thing, one of the characters that was here in Nashville, Tennessee, just passed, and that was Josephus, and I was working with him, and so I haven't done anything this year with, all I have to do is make a phone call. I've been so busy right now. Everything is opening up, and I've been doing Comic-Cons, conventions, virtuals, traveling, little things like that. So right now I don't have a role, but there are things that I can do with them. If they ask me come in and interfere or valet, well, it's easy. It's
well, that was kind of where I was going with that was, are you match ready? Are you still wanting to get in the ring and go up against any of the ladies that are currently? I'd
rather wrestle them in. I trust them more.
Actually, I'll give them a lot of credit. There's some extreme talent in NWA right now. Like as far as what is considered the independents, it's been one of the most amazing years in professional wrestling since the 80s, because you have these smaller promotions like the Ring of Honors, the NWA, Impact Wrestling, which AEW. Well, AEW is another level at this point.
Yeah, they've gone above and beyond. On fire.
But they've also made it so that these smaller promotions, because Impact has been the little engine that could. They've been going for almost 20 years now, and they're just they're the promotion that just won't die. They've gone up, they've gone down, they've come up, they've come down, they've had big names, they've had nobodies, they've had stars in the making. So that's why I'm kind of curious. Like right now, you've got, and they're all working together now. So you've got Mickie James, going back and forth because her husband is in NWA, so she's working with him. You've got Thunder Rosa in the NWA, I believe. Isn't the blonde Allison Kay? Isn't she still?
Don't know her. Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying. Like I was getting into the
NWA.
Know
more than I do.
Well, I started doing my homework. I started watching all the YouTube stuff, and because you never know who's going to be there. Like I know Melina joined in, so you've got a handful.
I love Melina. Melina's a
and Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa was one. That's one of the bigger ones.
Oh yeah, Thunder Rosa, of course. Yes,
so
that's right.
You've got these very, very talented women.
And they can wrestle, and they can
yes.
wrestle well. That's the cool thing.
That's why I'm kind of curious. Do you get that?
Well, you never know. Let me just tell you one thing. You just never know, because I have little things in my sleeves that are coming out that I can't talk about right this minute, but everyone keep watching. It's getting closer for me to leave soon. I wanted to talk about a couple of things.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
And so just real quick, when that time comes, when that interesting thing happens, by all means,
we're going to do this again.
You come on the show and drop a bombshell. And, if you ever need, a little bit of arm candy for a trip to the ring, you just give me a call. I'll be there. But
got it.
We wanted to promote some of your stuff that you've got going on. You have a comic book?
So I want to tell everybody I have a wrestling comic. This is written by John Crother. The company is Squared Circle Comics. It's 25-page. He calls it a bio comic? Biographical comic. Biographical comic. It's beautiful. I'm just showing you some of the stuff. These are the 12 original artworks. And the cool thing about it is there's 3 covers. They gave me not 1, 3 covers, which is kind of cool.
I want to see. Can you hold up each of the 3 individually?
Okay,
so we
here's
can
the first one.
This was, oh my goodness. That's how I learned about.
That's how you remember me. Okay. This artwork, Carlos Tron, who did all the artwork in it. He's amazing. John Crother wrote it, and here's the 3rd cover. I don't know how they decided to do 3 covers, but I was really thrilled and even honored to be asked to do that. This is my 2nd one. I also have a soap company, Hollywood Botanica, and we could talk tons about it, but I started that in 2018. It's called Hollywood Botanica with a K, no preservatives in the soap. And I just love stuff that has no preservatives in it, and which is good for your skin and good. And today I just launched Tattoo Bomb. I call it Hollywood's Badass Tattoo Bomb, and it's got all organic stuff in it, so it's pretty cool. So
this is
I have
a
to
bath
send you
bomb.
some. You have ink? Are you ink?
I have quite a bit of ink.
Oh, good.
I have a whole sleeve up here, and
yes, you do.
I got a little up here, and I even got a couple in places that I'm not allowed to show without the girlfriend's permission.
Of course. You have to send me your address so that way I can send you some, and I'll come back and we can do like a part 2 to this.
That would be absolutely, absolutely wonderful.
When your partner is feeling better, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She was looking forward to it. She's been getting a crash course in Pro Wrestling 101.
Cool.
And the next time we can dive more into the rock and roll part of it.
Let's do that. I want you, when we're done, let's pick another date. Absolutely. Let's pick November. Let's do November because
that would be magnificent. Well,
I love that.
Miss Hollywood, I appreciate you coming on the show. It was I could talk to you for hours. I know we could. And you didn't ask. I'm still licking. I don't know how many. I'm impressed. Right before we came on, Jeannie grabbed her Tootsie Pop and said, "I've got my Tootsie Pop to keep me going." And I'm like, "Well, how many licks does it take you?" Because I get about halfway through, and I'm like, crunch. So do I. But we're doing an interview, so I'm, and I'm starving for dinner. So this is like helping me. Well, and on that note, I'm going to let you go and say thank you very much. Stick around for a minute after we go off live, and we can discuss the next part. Thank you, everybody. We will be back next week at 5:30 on Thursday with more Rock and Roll 101 with Dino and Beth. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, check out the YouTube page. I will give you links to all things Miss Jeanne Basone so that you can support her as well. We appreciate you being on. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, everybody.